Hey guys, and welcome to week 10 of the P4G Next Generation. This week we're facing off against JaCubAsAlways, coach of the Green Bay Pikachus. So Jacob's actually at the second place in the league. His record is 8-1 I believe, so yeah, obviously he's a very good battler. And he's also got a very good team, so I really had a hard time prepping against him. And I still don't really feel certain about my team build. So yeah, let's have a look at his team, shall we? First off is Lando T. That thing is just so versatile. He's gonna bring that for sure because it has a pretty good matchup against my team. I could see him bring a defensive set to take moves from Mega Lopunny, intimidate it, and just take any move I want to throw at him. Maybe slap a Rocky Helmet on it just to allow some chip, or give Lopunny some chip damage, I mean. But another option is definitely a more offensive Lando with a Yachi Berry potentially to take an Ice Punch from Mega Lopunny, because I feel like offensive Lando can really put in work against my team. Up next is Blacephalon, and that thing is just such a problem because I got 0 switch-ins to that thing. All of my mons that can take ghost type moves get hit hard by Fire Blast and, well, fire moves in general, and all of the moves, or all of the mons I mean, that can take fire type moves just get hit hard by Shadow Ball, Chandelure and Latios. So yeah, that thing is just a guaranteed bring because, as I said, I got 0 switches for that thing. That thing's just such a problem to deal with. It got the Beast Boost ability, which gives it a +1 in attack, or possibly speed if he decides to bring, well, not bring a lot attack investment. So yeah, I feel like a Scarf Blacephalon really puts in work against me because it outspeeds my entire team and can just fire off its powerful moves. He's also got Tentacruel, really bulky mon, has Rapid Spin, good synergy with Landorus, takes the Ice and Water type moves Landorus is weak to, and Landorus is immune to the ground type moves. Tentacruel is weak to. So yeah, he could bring it, because I feel like T-Spikes against me are very good because I don't have a poison type mon on my team that can just absorb the T-Spikes. But he could also kind of refrain from bringing it because I do have Latios, which sort of walls it and just kills it with Psyshock. So yeah, I'm not really sure if he's gonna bring Tentacruel, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. He's got Porygon too. That thing can just be such an annoyance. It's really bulky with the Eviolite, and it also has a pretty wide variety of moves. It also has pretty good abilities in Trace, Download and Analytic. Yeah, I do think he's gonna bring Porygon too because of how bulky it is, just to take moves from my Latios or something like that. He's got Mesprit as well, is a Stealth Rocker he has, U-Turner as well. Pretty good mon in my opinion, it's pretty good all around. I can see him bringing it because a defensive set could be brought to take moves from Mega Lopunny, since it's, of course, it resists my fighting type moves. So yeah, Mesprit is definitely an option he can bring as well. Next up is Alolan Executor. That thing can actually hit really hard because it has a pretty good attack stat. He could actually bring a Trick Room set, so he does have some Trick Room options on his team with Porygon 2, well, this thing, and also his other mon can benefit from Trick Room, which I will get to in a minute. I didn't really prep a lot for Executor because I don't really see it coming, but if he does bring it, then it might be able to put in work. He's got Mega Mawile, that thing's just a monster. I really got no switch into it, because its coverage kinda hits my entire team. Yeah, Mawile was the mon I was talking about that could benefit from Trick Room, since it's kinda slow, so it could bring some speed on it to outspeed specific mons, but it will outspeed my faster mons on the Trick Room. I also don't really have a lot of mons that can revenge kill it reliably, so yeah, that's also a problem. He's also got Jolteon, very fast electric type, can go for fast Volt switches. I do think he's gonna bring it because it's kinda hard to deal with my team. I don't really have solid switch-ins to it because Shadow Ball hits my Gourgeist and my Latios, which resists his electric type moves, and Gliscor is immune to his electric type moves but gets hit hard by HP Ice. But yeah, I do think he's gonna bring Jolteon. He could also bring a Quick Feed set with Flame Orb to outspeed Mega Lopunny. He's got Umbreon as well, so not only P2 but also this thing, so pretty good defensive core. That thing is just really bulky as well, it's a really bulky cleric. You can go for those wishes and heal bells. I do think he's gonna bring it because it's immune to Latios' moves and takes Draco pretty well if it's Pidef. So yeah, Umbreon is definitely a mon I see him bringing. He's got Mienshao as well, a really good fighting type, has the Reckless ability, Regenerator, so some really useful abilities. So I could see him bring Mienshao because it kinda hurts my team a lot. If he's gonna bring it, I'm more predicting a Scarf set to outspeed Mega Lopunny. Now we get to his last mon, and that is Omastar. That thing is mostly known for shell smashing or hazard stacking because it gets spikes, T-spikes, rocks. So yeah, you could bring that in combination with a sash or something, weak armor possibly. As for Z-Crystal, Z-Crystal is the ground DMZ, so that is mostly used on Lando T. Tectonic Rage from an offensive Landorus just hits so hard. But yeah, that's it for his team. As I said, a lot of threats, so let's dive right into the team I built. First off is Mega Lopunny. I needed to bring this thing because it outspeeds his entire team, so that is really nice. And he also has few switch-ins to this thing, but once those are weakened, Mega Lopunny can really put in work, I feel like. So yeah, Limber ability of course. As for my moves, Return, High Jump Kick, Ice Punch, so pretty standard Ice Punches there to hit Lando T. So that is really nice. And I'm also bringing Drain Punch, so Drain Punch and High Jump Kick. Originally I had Fake Out on this Mega Lopunny because I thought it would be nice to have priority if the Blacephalon was Choice Scarf or got a speed boost. But I later switched this to Drain Punch because I felt like Drain Punch would be helpful to of course gain recovery, but also against Umbreon and P2. If those two carry Protect, then of course High Jump Kick would fail and cause some recoil, so I thought a kind of mid-ground play with Drain Punch would be nice. So yeah, I hope I don't regret replacing Fake Out for Drain Punch, but we'll see. As for my EVs, I'm bringing enough speed to outspeed Jolteon by 1 point, and the remaining just an attack, max attack and 36 in HP. Up next is Bisharp. Bisharp is actually pretty important to this match, because he has to intimidate users in Lando T and Mawile. Well, Mawile is optional of course, but Lando T is stuck with Intimidate. So I do have the Defiant ability to kind of punish those switches into Bisharp, I guess. He also doesn't really have a good switch into Bisharp, so that's why Bisharp is really important. I'm kind of suffering from the moveslot syndrome on Bisharp though, because I really wanted to put Pursuit on it since that could revenge kill Blacephalon. But I really wanted Knockoff as well, because Knockoff is really important in, well, it's a powerful move of course, and is useful in knocking off the Eviolite from Porygon. I also needed Sucker Punch to, well, hit the faster mons, like for example Blacephalon or Lando T. And Iron Head was also pretty important because otherwise I couldn't really touch Umbreon if I only had Dark type moves. And I also wanted SD because if I am able to set up an SD, I can really put in work because, as I said, doesn't really have a good switch into this thing. And SD also kind of helps in, well, breaking through the Porygon 2 and the Umbreon. Yeah, unfortunately I couldn't fit Pursuit on it. Pursuit would be really useful if, for example, he was locked into Shadow Ball, knocked one of my mons out, and I could just send in Bisharp, don't die to the Shadow Ball, and guaranteed OHKO it with a Pursuit. Yeah, I might regret not bringing Pursuit just like Fake Out, but we'll see. I'm bringing the Dread Plate because at +2 I will be able to OHKO offensive Lando with Sucker Punch. So that's why Dread Plate is pretty useful. As for my EVs, I'm bringing enough speed to outspeed non-invested Tentacruel. And I also wanted to invest speed in case Lando T was defensive and invested some speed to outspeed my Bisharp. So he could still outspeed Bisharp, but I don't think he's gonna bring a lot of speed on a defensive Lando, since he of course needs the EVs for defense and HP. As for my other EVs, Max Attack Adamant to hit as hard as possible and 4 in Spadef. So yeah, that's it for Bisharp. Up next is Latios. I don't feel like Latios does much in this match, but it was my best remaining mon I could bring, since my other mons I felt like didn't do much. So Latios is coming this match. I'm bringing the Cassip or Cassip berry, not sure how to pronounce that berry's name. It has the damage taken from super effective ghost type attacks, I mean. So that helps against Blacephalon, so we can take a Shadow Ball and OHKO it with Draco Meteor. I'm also bringing Psyshock because it's pretty useful, good stab move, and it helps against the Tentacruel. HP Fire is there for Mega Mawile, but I kinda regret bringing HP Fire because HP Ground would have been better, so it was kinda a mistake to bring HP Fire, because Fire is only Fire, well, mons that are weak to Fire type moves is Mawile. That's its only mon that's weak to Fire, and Ground hits Mawile as well as other mons like Blacephalon and Jolteon, so HP Ground would be more useful, but it was kinda a mistake on my part. As for my last move, it's Substitute. Substitute is really there against the Mawile, because if Latios is in against the Mawile, I'm predicting him to go for Sucker Punch, so I can just predict that, go for Substitute and, well, be safe. So that might be really useful. As for my EVs, as I said, I'm bringing enough Spatek to guaranteed OHKO the Blacephalon with Draco Meteor. The speed is there to outspeed Blacephalon at Timid Blacephalon max speed. And the remainder is just put in HP to give me some bulk. Up next is Empoleon. Empoleon is also pretty useful in this match. I'm bringing the Shaka Berry because I can take a ground type move from Lando then and just OHKO it with Ice Beam unless that thing is Yachi. I also carry Scald because getting off burns against his physically offensive mons will be really nice, especially the Mawile. Knockoff is there to knock off the item from Tentacruel, which can be really nice because otherwise Tentacruel kinda walls me. And Knockoff is also useful against the Porygon too. I'm also carrying Stealth Rock because I really needed a rocker because he has Blacephalon and rocks will really help in wearing that threat down. As for my EVs, max HP, I'm bringing 4 in speed because that way I outspeed non-infested P2. As for my other EVs, I'm bringing 148 in Spadef with a calm nature. I have to think what this was for. I think it allows me to live or not get 2-hit KO'd by Fire Blast from Choice Scarf Blacephalon. So there is still a small chance that I will get 2-hit KO'd, but it's just really small, so I thought it wasn't worth putting more in Spadef. So you have 148 in Spadef for that, and 100 in defense. I also wanted some sort of bulk in defense, because it helps me take moves from Mawile kinda better. And also with this defense investment, I live a Tectonic Rage from offensive Lando most of the time through the Shaka Berry. So that can be really useful. And yeah, the remaining 4 EVs were just put in Spatek. Up next is Gliscor. Gliscor is pretty important in this match because I really need it to help break down his walls. So I'm carrying EQ, Toxic, Taunt and Roost. EQ is there of course to hit the Mawile, Blacephalon and well pretty much everything that isn't floating. Toxic is there to help wear down his walls, as I said, P2, Umbreon, Mesprit, especially against P2 that will be really nice because I think P2 doesn't really have a way to get rid of statuses. I think so at least. I'm also carrying Taunt because that way P2 can't recover on me and Umbreon can't Wish or go for Heal Bell. So that is really useful and Roost is there for recovery in case I get low. Yeah, Gliscor is really there to help as a stall breaker. As for my EVs, I'm bringing the standard HP 204. I'm bringing 44 in speed because that way I outspeed non-speed infested Tentacruel, just like Bisharp. Just like Bisharp, yeah. And 180 in Spadef with a careful nature because that way I think I won't get 2-hit KO'd by HP Ice from Lando. Yeah, I think it was for that. And it also helps taking HP Ices better from Jolteon as well as moves from Blacephalon. I also won't get 2-hit KO'd by Shadow Ball from Blacephalon, so that is really cool. And just a remainder 80 in defense. Yeah, that's it for Gliscor. Last but not least, we're bringing Gourgeist again this week, so for the second time this season. Gourgeist is pretty important as well because it's, kinda walls Lando unless that thing has Fly. Because he can't bring Z-Fly Lando because he's stuck with the Ground EMZ, so Gourgeist kinda walls that thing 99% of the time. So Gourgeist's main task is to burn physical attackers in this match. The Colbur Berry allows us to take a knockoff from Mawile and just Will-O-Wisp it after that. So that will be really nice and really useful in crippling that thing. So yeah, we're bringing Shadow Sneak because Shadow Sneak is really useful against the Blacephalon. Leech Seed helps wear down walls as well and it gives us nice recovery, which is also good because we're not bringing the leftovers. As I said, Will-O-Wisp, and last but not least is Synthesis because having recovery is always nice. As for my EVs, I'm bringing max HP, 164 in Spadef, and because that way I won't get 2-hit KO'd by non-specs Shadow Ball from Blacephalon. So that way we can beat it with 2 Shadow Sneaks, so that is really useful. And the remainder was just put in defense with an Impish Nature just to take moves from Mawile better, Lando, Mienshao. Also the Frisk ability on Gourgeist will be really useful in scouting for sets, so yeah, that is really nice. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my team. As I said, I really struggled team building for this match, and because I really felt like I didn't have a good matchup, and Jacob is just such a good battler. But yeah, this is the end result. I really hope we'll be able to, grab a win. And yeah, let's get right to the match. Okay, so here we are with the battle. First, a big thank you to Blue Rogue for joining my team and recording this match for me. As for the team my opponent brought, he brought the Jolteon, the Mesprit, Mienshao, Lando T, Mega Mawile and Porygon 2. So a lot of things I expected, but one thing I didn't expect was him not bringing the Blacephalon. I was so scared of that thing, and as you guys can see, he didn't bring it. I prepped a lot for it. So yeah, him not bringing the Blacephalon just, well, blew my mind, pun intended. But he also didn't bring the Umbreon, so that was also something I was kind of surprised about. So yeah, I did bring Mienshao and Mesprit in favor of Blacephalon and Umbreon. So that was kind of surprising, but I kind of did see Mienshao and Mesprit coming because they had a solid matchup against my team. But choosing my lead, I decided to lead with Gourgeist because Gourgeist would have been the best lead against a potential Mega Mawile lead, as I don't have a good switch in for that thing at all. And if I am able to burn that thing turn 1, that would have been just so great. And also Gourgeist kinda helps as well against a potential Lando T or Mienshao lead. So I lead off with the Gourgeist as he leads off with Scruffy the Jolteon. So that is a pretty bad lead for me. I've said it during my team build. I don't have a solid switch into this thing and he can just go for a Shadow Ball to severely hurt me. I do frisk its Assault Vest though, and that is pretty nice to know because now I am able to lift 2 Shadow Balls from him after getting off a Leech Seed. So that is what I decided to do. I went for Leech Seed as he just goes for the Volt Switch. But that isn't too big of a problem because Leech Seed just hits everything that wants to come in. He goes into the Porygon 2 and I am able to land my Leech Seed, so that is pretty nice because, well, getting off some chip damage against this thing is really huge since that thing is just so bulky and hard to take down. Now though I have to switch out because I don't want to take an Ice Beam or a Shadow Ball from this thing, so I switch out into my especially defensive mon, and that is Empoleon, because it can just take an Ice Beam with ease or a Shadow Ball pretty well. But instead he predicts my switch and goes for the Tri-Attack, so that was a nice play on his part. Tri-Attack does nothing to Empoleon though. And I do gain some more Leech Seed recovery and get off some more chip damage on this thing, that is really nice. This turn I go for the knockoff because I really want to knock off its Eviolite since that would be so huge against the Porygon 2. But unfortunately for me he does switch out into the Jolteon. I will be able to knock off its Assault Vest though, so that is pretty nice, but knocking off the Eviolite from the Porygon 2 would have been a lot better. Here though I'm pretty much forced to switch out because I don't want to take an Electric type move. So I go back into my Gourgeist. But as you guys can see, he very nicely predicts that and goes for the Shadow Ball. That was actually a pretty safe play because my electric resist Latios and, well, this thing would get hit hard by Shadow Ball, and Shadow Ball also hits the Gliscor. So yeah, Shadow Ball was a pretty nice play on his part and a pretty free play as well. I go into my Gliscor right here because I don't want to lose Gourgeist yet because I really need that thing to, well, deal with the Mawile, and Gliscor takes the Shadow Ball pretty nicely. According to my calcs though, I am able to live an HP Ice from that thing and I will be able to kill it with EQ, so that's why I stayed in this turn. He goes for HP Ice and as you guys can see I am able to live it and I go for the EQ and I will be able to take the Jolteon out. So even though my Gliscor is now very low, I will be able to kill this Jolteon, and well, in my opinion it was worth it because Jolteon was just such a problem to deal with my team. So getting rid of it this turn is really nice. He gets in his Mienshao right now. He will be able to revenge kill me with the knockoff. According to my calcs though, I should have been able to lift this knockoff. But I did die, so that's why for the longest time I thought this thing was actually banded since I didn't see Life Orb. I go into my Mega Lopunny right now because I will be able to live the knockoff if that thing is Choice Scarf, and if he's banded, I do outspeed it and will kill it with Return, but he switches out right here, wanting to preserve his Mienshao and goes into the Lando T to intimidate me, so that's a pretty nice play. I probably should have went for Ice Punch, but Return was, well, pretty much my only play, because if he did stay in he could have just killed me if I didn't go for Return. So I go for the Return right here. If he's defensive, Return isn't gonna do much at all, I mean. But as you guys can see, it does a solid amount, about 35% or so. So that confirms this Lando is offensive and not defensive, so that is pretty nice to know. I'm predicting him to carry the Yachi Berry though, so I go into my Gourgeist to take any of its moves. Frisk does reveal the Yachi Berry, so I did make a nice switch. But he actually doubles out right here into the Mesprit, and that's actually not bad at all for me. Mesprit is most likely physically defensive, and he's able to get up his rocks, but against the Mesprit I am able to go for the Synthesis and heal up. So having my Gourgeist almost up to full again is just really nice, because I need Gourgeist healthy to, well, take moves from the Mawile, and getting Mawile burned with Gourgeist is just really important, and it's pretty much my plan to deal with the Mawile. I go for the Leech Seed right here as he switches out into the Porygon 2. So getting some more chip damage off against this Porygon 2, that's really nice. Porygon 2 is getting fairly low right now, so well, that is always good, I guess. I do land the Leech Seed and I gain some more recovery. I am up to full again and Porygon 2 is almost down to half HP. I switch out right here because I still fear the Ice Beam or the Shadow Ball, so I go back into my... No, actually I go for the Will-O-Wisp this turn, and this is actually a pretty big turn. I went for the Will-O-Wisp because I wanted to get the burn off against the Porygon 2 since I lost my Gliscor and now I wasn't able to Toxic it anymore, so I wanted some sort of chip damage. But instead he does switch out, predicting my Empoleon switch, and goes to the Marwell, as I am able to land the Will-O-Wisp and burn this Marwell. And that is just really huge. Because, well, Marwell is crippled right now, he Mega Evolves right here and goes for the knockoff. But since I do have the Colbur Berry, I will be able to take it, and also he's burned, so knockoff is pretty much gonna do nothing. And I just go for the Leech Seed to, well, allow this thing to take some more chip damage. Unfortunately, I do miss Leech Seed this turn. But I can just go for a second Leech Seed after this turn. Marwell can't touch me at all because, well, he's burned and I'm physically defensive. So yeah, this is a really big turn because Marwell isn't a threat anymore. I go for the Leech Seed and I do land this time, getting it off against the Porygon 2. So Porygon 2 is getting even lower. So yeah, even though it sucked losing Gliscor because I couldn't Toxic the Porygon 2 anymore, it allowed me to get or burn a Marwell, I mean, so I think it was worth it, I guess. I switch out right now because I still fear the Ice Beam or Shadow Ball. I mistook it for last a couple turns ago. So I go into Poseidon as he actually goes for the recover, so that was pretty obvious, I guess. So Porygon 2 is up to full again. I think I go for the rocks right here because he has made a couple of switches and I kind of want to punish him switching out each time. So yeah, I go for my rocks right here on his switch. I think he goes into the Marwell again. Yeah, he goes into Brian, the Mega Marwell, as I set up my rocks, so that is really nice. If he wants to get rid of my rocks, he has to defog, and well, he will get rid of his rocks as well, so that is pretty nice. I switch out right here because I want to keep Empoleon healthy. I just switch out into my Gourgai since it's my best thing, best switching against this thing. And knockoff doesn't do anything, and Play Rough still does a solid amount, but he's burned, so yeah. He goes for the knockoff again and gets me about 50%, so I have to go for Synthesis after this turn because I need to keep Gourgeist healthy. Gourgeist is really important for me in winning this match. He switches out right here into the Porygon 2 as I go for the Synthesis, I believe. I could go for the Leech Seed as well. No, I do go for the Synthesis, I was right. So yeah, Jack goes up to full again, I'm pretty sure. And this turn I think I go back out into the Empoleon because I'm still not certain if he has the Ice Beam or Shadow Ball, but I severely doubt it because he still hasn't gone for it. So I go back into Empoleon as he actually throws off the Toxic this turn. So luckily I did switch. I almost wanted to stay in and go for the and went for the Leech Seed. So luckily I did switch, otherwise Jagger would have been put on a timer and that would have been bad. I go for the Scald this turn because I was predicting the switch into the Marwell because I thought the knockoff was pretty obvious, but he went to the Mesprit instead. I don't get the burn, unfortunately for me. I do switch out right here into the Bisharp because I'm pretty certain he can't touch me. If he went for HP Fighting though, that would have been kinda, well, problematic since HP Fighting hits Bisharp pretty hard, but he goes for the Psychic instead and that doesn't affect me, of course. I can kill this thing with a knockoff, so I go for that, but as you guys can see, he does carry the Colbur Berry, which will allow him to lift my knockoff, and that's pretty bad because of the Colbur Berry he is able to get up a Trick Room, and now Marwell outspeeds my Bisharp and a lot of my mons, and that is really scary. So I go for the Sucker Punch right here in case he wants to go for the HP Fighting, but it fails because he goes for the Healing Wish, and that is actually really bad because now he will be able to get him his Marwell and, well, get rid of the burn. Yeah, that's pretty bad because my Colbur Berry is gone on my Gourgeist, and well, now Gourgeist doesn't really take moves from Marwell anymore because the burn is gone, and Marwell is just a threat again. I really thought I was in a nice position because the Marwell was burned, but now it isn't anymore, and things aren't really looking too good. I'm switching out right here because I want to preserve my Bisharp, so I go into my Empoleon to take the expected Play Rough. And as you guys can see, he does go for the Play Rough, and it does a lot. It does about 50% to my Empoleon. But because the Trick Room is up, I will be able to outspeed this Marwell unless this thing is minus speed. But he does switch out as I go for Scald, so he didn't want to take a Scald and risk the burn. he goes into his Porygon 2 as I go for the Scald again. I mean, and I do get that thing fairly low. I'm predicting the switch into the Marwell though, and I can't really allow that, so that's why I go for a second Scald, predicting that, but he just stays in and goes for the Recover. So I could have went for Knockoff and knocked off his Eviolite. So unfortunately for me I didn't. I still think the switch, or the knockoff I mean, is fairly obvious, so I go for another Scald, but he stays in again. So I'm hoping I get the burn, but unfortunately I don't, and he just fires off the Tri-Attack, so that does absolutely nothing. This turn though I go for the knockoff because he stayed in twice, and I could have just gotten rid of its Eviolite much earlier, so this time I go for the knockoff, he stays in, and I knock off its Eviolite as he goes for another Recover. But at this point my Empoleon is kinda useless because it's getting really low and it can't really take an EQ anymore from Lando, even though I still have the Shaka Berry. So I just fire off Scalds to try and weaken this Porygon and maybe get a burn. I don't get a burn though, and he just goes for the Tri-Attack again. So yeah, at this point, as I said, I'm sacking off my Empoleon. He does get the freeze here, which is pretty funny, but I do have the Scald, so it doesn't really matter. So I go for the Scald, melt the ice, and just fire it off again. I think I'm in Torrent range actually, so Scald does a lot more than it, well, did earlier. So that is really nice. Having Torrent on Empoleon is apparently really useful. So yeah, I just keep firing off Scald is my only play really. Empoleon is almost dead and pretty useless, so I go for Scald. And I don't get the burn unfortunately. He goes for another Tri-Attack, so after this turn I will be able to kill the Porygon 2, which is really nice. As you guys can see though, this turn he actually freezes me again, so he gets a double freeze with Tri-Attack. That was pretty funny, but of course those didn't matter because I just have Scald and I can just go for that. And Scald is able to knock out the Porygon because of the Torrent boost. So Porygon 2 is down, and that is pretty big because that thing was just such a pain to deal with, and now it's finally dead. But he gets in his Marwell right now, which will be able to outspeed me and go for the knockoff. I just sack off my Empoleon because I was already sacking it off against the Porygon 2. So Empoleon goes down, but it did a lot this match. It killed the Porygon 2, which was just so awesome. I go into my Gourgeist right now because I will be able to get off a burn if I land my Will-O-Wisp. And his other remaining mons are the Mienshao and the Lando, which are physical attackers as well, so burning one of those three is just so nice. He reveals the Ice Punch right here, so he did have another way to kill me, or hit me I mean, so I guess Ice Punch was there for the Gliscor. I do land my Will-O-Wisp though after taking the Ice Punch, so that is really nice. If I would have missed my Will-O-Wisp, that would have been kinda bad. This turn though I have to go for Shadow Sneak. I can't go for Synthesis because he will kill me with a Ice Punch, I mean, even after the burn. So I go for the Shadow Sneak for some chip damage as he goes for the Ice Punch and kills Jacko. So Jacko, even though it would have been really useful against the Mienshao or the Lando, I still do have my Latios and my Bisharp to kinda handle those. I go into my Mega Lopunny right now because Mega Marvel is in range of my High Jump Kick. I just don't have to miss this move, but luckily for me I do land it, and High Jump Kick is able to grab the KO on the Marvel. So things are looking pretty good for me. He only has his Mienshao and his Lando T left. And he goes into the Lando right now. And he does intimidate me though. I don't really have a good switch into this thing. I could go into Latios predicting the EQ. But if he goes for the knockoff predicting that would have been bad. So I just go for the Ice Punch. It's equally as powerful as Return because of the Yachi Berry. Ice Punch isn't able to kill it because of the Yachi. And here Lando actually reveals the Rock Polish, so for a second I was pretty scared because he's now able to outspeed my entire team, but then I thought he wouldn't be able to kill me with EQ, and if he had Fly, that wouldn't matter either, I think, because I also had priority in Bishop Sucker Punch. He goes for the EQ though, I do live it as I said, and I am able to knock this thing out with the Return. So his last mon is the Mienshao. I'm still not certain what item this Mienshao runs. So we're gonna see that in a minute. If I outspeed it, he doesn't have a Scarf, but if he does outspeed me, he is Scarfed, but I can just go into Latios afterwards. He is Scarfed though, because he outspeeds my Lopunny, and he kills me with High Jump Kick. So Lopunny goes down unfortunately, but I can just go for, or go into my Latios, I mean, afterwards. Latios is at full HP, well, not anymore after the rocks of course, but I will be able to lift the High Jump Kick 100% of the time, even if he crits me. So he goes for the High Jump Kick. It still does a lot though. I was pretty surprised about that. Just reckless High Jump Kick from this Mienshao just hit so hard. But I go for the Psyshock and it's able to OHKO the Mienshao, and that is GG to Jacob. This was a very good game in my opinion. There wasn't any hacks involved. at all, if I remember correctly, so yeah, that makes it even better. So this was a really good game. There wasn't really any hacks involved at all, so that makes it even better. So yeah, I'm just really happy I was able to win this match. I think we also clinched playoffs right now. We might have been able to, we might have clinched playoffs, I mean, last week. I'm really not certain. I didn't really pay attention to it, I guess. But now we have clinched playoffs for certain, so that is really nice. Anyway though, again, GG to Jacob. Be sure to check out his channel, which is linked in the description down below. Be sure to check out his side of the match. And yeah, thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!